private investigator. I've got some books at scrutiny. Inside, I get from the United States.
When activist Jodia Brown made a comment about Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, calling her exploitative, at a recent Thornton Township Board meeting, tensions were already high. What seemed like a simple comment would quickly set off a series of events that left everyone stunned and discussing the aftermath. The meeting, which had begun as a typical political gathering, quickly descended into a full-fledged physical altercation after Brown's comment touched a nerve with several attendees, turning what should have been a routine discussion of local issues into an unpredictable spectacle. The meeting quickly devolved into a battleground, leaving everyone in shock at how quickly things had gotten out of control. The aftermath of the Brawl was far from quiet investigations into political corruption and financial mismanagement within the township. Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, who had previously been known for her fiery personality and public confrontations, was caught up in the confusion and ended up on the floor at one point, losing her shoe in the process. Sparked with the public and authorities eager to understand the underlying issues behind the outburst, while many remained stunned by the violent scene that played out in front of them. The township's ongoing financial troubles were another major point of contention for some, and the violence at the meeting was simply the culmination of years of frustration with the township's leadership under Henyard, the controversial supervisor who has frequently been under scrutiny due to her history of being involved in scandals involving financial mismanagement and political fallout. However, her decision to physically participate in the altercation went beyond her usual contentious behavior, elevating the situation to an unprecedented level. Henyard's involvement in the Brawl was a game-changer known for her combative style and unapologetic approach to leadership. Her sudden physical engagement took everyone by surprise. Many had been familiar with her fiery public confrontations, but this was a different level of involvement. Brown's comment, which was intended to highlight Henyard's alleged exploitation, ignited the argument in a tense atmosphere that had been building for some time. What started as a conversation about the township's problems turned into a shouting match, and the situation only got worse from there as tensions escalated into a violent altercation involving not only Henyard but also her boyfriend and several township employees. The public had long known Henyard as a political figure who thrived on conflict, but witnessing her enter into a physical altercation raised questions about her leadership and decision-making. The room was filled with confusion and disbelief, with some attendees who had come to voice concerns in a civil manner now witnessing the very people they trusted to represent them in government engage in a violent altercation. The board meeting, which had once been seen as a chance for open discussion and resolution, quickly turned into a scene of chaos, with emotions running high and the situation getting worse. It became evident during the altercation that the township's problems extended beyond simple political disagreements, and the altercation, while shocking in and of itself, was indicative of the meeting, which was originally intended to address residents' concerns and discuss township matters, quickly turned into a physical brawl that caught everyone's attention. However, for those on the sidelines, the chaos was only the beginning of a much larger issue as the altercation subsided and investigations into the underlying causes of the violence began. The public became more focused on the deeper issues that had led to such an extreme response from the township's leadership. Was Henyard's physical involvement in the fight an unexpected response to mounting pressure, or was it a calculated move? Henyard's reputation as a combative leader had preceded her, but the events at the meeting thrust her notoriety to new heights. Many members of the public had grown accustomed to her strong-willed nature and her propensity to engage in public disputes, but this latest incident left a lasting impression. Was it just another example of her fiery personality, or did it signify something deeper about her leadership style? Henyard's reputation as a combative leader had preceded her, but the events at the meeting pushed her notoriety to new heights. Many members of the public had grown accustomed to her strong-willed nature and her tendency to engage in public disputes, but this latest incident left a lasting impression. Was it the culmination of a pattern of volatile leadership that had long been a hallmark of her tenure, or was it a calculated move to assert control over a situation she felt was slipping away from her? Henyard's leadership style, the altercation was more than just a physical altercation. It was a turning point that would determine her political future as investigations into the township's financial mismanagement began. The public's attention shifted from the violence of the meeting to the larger issues of corruption and leadership failure that had plagued the community for years. As the dust settled, the questions remained. Was Henyard's position at risk? Would she survive the fallout from this dramatic incident? Or would the mounting pressure from the public and political opponents ultimately lead to her downfall? The public was demanding transparency and accountability, and the investigations that followed promised to reveal more than just the events of that fateful meeting. As the situation continued to develop, Henyard found herself facing not only the consequences of her actions that night, but also the mounting pressure to answer for the larger issues that had long plagued her. One thing is certain: the public's trust in her leadership was rapidly eroding. The fallout from the Thornton Township Board meeting, which began as a routine political gathering but ended in violence and chaos, exposing long-ignored issues, is still reverberating throughout the community. The question now is whether Henyard can weather the storm, or if this will be the tipping point that ends or reigns. The investigation into the township's financial mismanagement and corruption is only getting started, and as more details emerge, the drama is only getting more intense. Be able to hold on to her position, or is her time and power running out? The public's focus is firmly on Thornton Township as the investigation continues, and everyone is eager to find out the truth about what happened that fateful night. The debate rages on, and the community is left wondering how things got so out of control in the first place after Supervisor Tiffany Henyard physically engaged in the altercation at the recent Thornton Township Board meeting. There's no denying that her actions have drawn significant attention, not the kind of attention a public leader would want. Henyard's behavior at the meeting has quickly become the subject of intense debate. Has she always been this contentious, or did the altercation bring out the worst in her? Even more out of control, the catalyst for the violence was activist Joe Brown, whose harsh criticism of Henyard's leadership caught everyone off guard. Her remarks struck a chord with many in the room, especially those who had been silently enraged for months over Henyard's administration. Her words swiftly became a rallying cry for those who had long felt ignored and disrespected by the township's leadership, but Henyard, who was known for her combative nature, was not the type to sit back and absorb criticism. With emotions already running high, the last thing anyone expected was for Henyard to confront Brown directly, as she did when she charged into the altercation. Witnesses described a scene of chaos as Henyard confronted Brown with an aggression that shocked everyone in the room. What was supposed to be a routine township board meeting quickly turned into a spectacle with punches thrown, tables overturned, and people screaming. The situation got out of control as Henyard, the authority figure, dove headfirst into the chaos, making it even more volatile. Was her decision to physically engage Brown controversial, to say the least? Was it an instinctive reaction to a situation that was rapidly slipping from her control? Some witnesses suggested that Henyard was attempting to break up the fight, but her actions didn't communicate that intention. Instead, she appeared to fan the flames by charging toward Brown with the force of someone who felt personally attacked and determined to assert control. The moment she entered the fray marked the turning point when an emotionally charged verbal altercation descended into physical violence, turning the board meeting from a political discussion into a scene of chaos. She didn't just stand by and watch. Instead, she inserted herself into the conflict, making it worse. This decision has left many wondering whether it was the right thing to do, or if she was defending herself in a room that was. Henyard has always been known for her willingness to confront conflict, but this altercation took that approach to a whole new level. What had started as a standard public meeting, likely intended to address the community's concerns, turned into a public spectacle. The shock of witnessing a public official physically engage in a fight is something that will not be easily forgotten. Was this an unplanned attempt to regain control in a situation where her leadership was being challenged, or was it simply a necessary reaction to the mounting frustration she was facing as a leader? Incredulous, the community's differing views on her involvement in the fight have raised questions about whether it was an attempt to maintain control or just a reaction fueled by unbridled emotion for someone in her position of authority. While some saw Henyard's decision to physically participate in the fight as a calculated move to assert dominance, others saw it as an unfortunate display of emotional overreaction, regardless of her intentions. The outcome was that Henyard was thrown to the ground during the confrontation, losing her shoe in the process. It was a scene that no one could have predicted, especially from a public official known for her fiery demeanor. The aftermath of the altercation was equally chaotic, and Henyard's future became even more uncertain. Those who watched the fight unfold were left wondering whether Henyard had lost sight of the responsibilities that come with her position of power. The investigation into the incident, which includes a closer look at Henyard's conduct, is poised to answer some of these questions, but at the same time, the situation has put township workers William Moore and Camelwood on administrative leave, with their actions during the fight now under intense scrutiny. Her personal conduct, particularly her role in escalating the situation, has become the focus of intense scrutiny. The investigation seeks to answer these questions, but it is evident that Henyard's political career has taken a serious hit. She had already been under fire for her handling of both Dalton and Thornton Township, and now that the brawl has occurred, her future is in jeopardy. The fact that she was directly involved in the altercation has only increased the scrutiny surrounding her leadership. Her actions during the fight, rather than restoring confidence in her ability to lead, only contributed to the chaos and left her reputation in ruins. The aftermath of this confrontation seemed to be the last straw for a leader who was already on edge. Henyard's refusal to acknowledge the possibility that her intervention might have made things worse only complicated matters, leaving the community and political observers wondering whether this altercation was a personal matter for her. The ongoing investigation into her actions has raised questions about her true motivation despite the growing backlash. In fact, she doubled down on her response, claiming that she had intervened because her safety had been threatened and that she acted to protect herself and others. Her defiance in the face of such harsh criticism only fueled the debate about whether actions were truly defensive or motivated by a desire to assert control in a situation that was clearly slipping out of her hands. Her actions had not only resulted in physical violence, but also created a political crisis as investigations continue, and it is unclear whether she will be able to move past this fiasco. Many people believe that Henyard saw the fight as more than just a fight, but rather as a chance to regain control over a rapidly deteriorating situation, even if that meant physically participating in the chaos. After the fight, Henyard's future appeared increasingly uncertain. The community is currently left to deal with the fallout from the incident. The Thornton Township Board meeting altercation has cast a long shadow over Henyard's career, and the question surrounding her leadership is becoming more and more pressing every day. Will she be able to weather this storm, or has this violent outburst marked the beginning of the end for her political career? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The incident has left a lasting impression on the community, and Hang's future in power is now more uncertain than ever. The ongoing investigation into the brawl will hopefully shed light on the reasons behind her actions, but one thing is certain. Hang's leadership appears to have been severely compromised. It's unclear whether she will be able to recover from this blow to her reputation, but what is certain is that her involvement in the altercation has only fueled the instability surrounding her tenure, further threatening her political future. Supervisor Tiffany Henyard incited a political firestorm at the Thornton Township Board meeting, putting her under intense scrutiny. Sparked intense debate. Her supporters contend that she may have been attempting to show strength to show that she would not back down from criticism, but many others believe that her decision to physically engage in a confrontation exemplified the chaotic leadership style that has increasingly defined her time in office. Rather than displaying the calm, measured control expected of someone in her position, her actions have only served to further solidify her reputation as a volatile and unpredictable figure. The question now is whether her involvement in the brawl was a calculated move to reassert authority in a rapidly deteriorating situation, or whether it was just an impulsive reaction to mounting frustration and pressure. The fallout from the altercation continues to cast doubt on her. Many people question whether her actions in the wake of the fight will ultimately lead to the end of her career. For some, her refusal to acknowledge the negative consequences of her actions or admit any wrongdoing only highlights her inability to lead effectively. While some see her response as a sign of resilience in the face of criticism, others believe it highlights her disregard for the realities of her position and the growing discontent within the community. In the days leading up to the fight, Henyard's leadership had already been under scrutiny. Days before the board meeting, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot delivered a scathing report to the Dalton trustees, highlighting serious concerns about financial mismanagement within the Henyard administration. The financial scandal engulfing Henyard's administration was already receiving a lot of attention thanks to Lightfoot's report, which painted a troubling picture of unlawful expenditures and a lack of transparency, raising doubts about Henyard's ability to manage public funds effectively. This made the timing of the altercation all the more significant because many people are now wondering if Henyard's involvement in the fight was a desperate attempt to deflect attention from the escalating scandal. Some speculate that she might have seen the fight as a way to distract from the financial crisis and divert attention from the more serious accusations against her, but the result appears to have had the opposite effect. The public's focus shifted to the physical altercation, which further solidified the public's perception of her as a leader in disarray. The accusations of financial mismanagement were still on the table, but now they had a new, more pressing issue to deal with. Her decision to physically fight was a final straw and an example of her poor judgment and inability to manage the township effectively. For many residents, the fight was a final straw because it was not only about the financial mismanagement, but also about her decision-making. While some may argue that Henyard's defiance in the face of criticism reflects resilience, many see it as an unwillingness to lead. The community, already frustrated with her handling of both Dalton and Thornton Township, began calling for her resignation because of her leadership and her ability to restore order when chaos ensues. The fight, which many said was just the latest in a series of missteps that proved Henyard was no longer fit to lead, as public opinion soured. Her refusal to take responsibility for the situation and to acknowledge the seriousness of the public's concerns has only increased the scrutiny on her leadership. The investigation into the altercation and the financial mismanagement scandal has only served to amplify the already existing complaints about Henyard's leadership as the two issues become more intertwined. The question that arises is whether Henyard's involvement in the altercation was simply the result of poor decision-making, or does it reflect a deeper pattern of the public's perception of Henyard is unlikely to change, as her involvement in the altercation has only deepened the crisis surrounding her leadership, leaving many wondering if the scandal will be the final blow to her political career. The fallout from the fight continues to unfold, and the future of her leadership is now seriously jeopardized beyond the immediate scandal. Did she see the fight as a way to deflect attention from the financial scandal, or was it simply a reaction to the personal frustration of an administration on the verge? The public is now left wondering whether this is a problem that can be solved through leadership change, or whether the community will continue to face the same issues for years to come. Calls for Henyard's resignation are becoming louder, and the community must now decide whether a new leader is needed to address the ongoing financial mismanagement and restore order to a community that has long suffered from instability and poor governance. Deeper, long-standing issues in both Dalton and Thornton Township include money mismanagement, a lack of accountability, and a political environment rife with dysfunction. Henyard's involvement in the altercation only serves to highlight the underlying issues plaguing the area. The community is desperate for decisive action and accountability, but it's unclear if Henyard will rise to the challenge or if her time in office is coming to an end. The pressure is growing, and the public is closely watching to see how she responds to the unfolding scandal as the investigation into the altercation and the corruption continues. The situation is undoubtedly dire, and the future of both Dalton and Thornton Township hangs in the balance. The key question now is whether Henyard can step up and lead the change needed to address these deeply ingrained issues, or whether her controversial leadership style will finally force her out of office. The future of Dalton and Thornton Township is now in doubt. Will they continue down the path of dysfunction, or is there a chance for real change? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: Henyard's involvement in the altercation has not only worsened the crisis surrounding her leadership, but has also cast a long shadow over the future of the communities she was once a part of. Financial mismanagement continues, but it's unclear whether she can weather this storm, or whether the altercation at the board meeting will mark the end of her political career. As we continue to follow these developments, we will provide you with the most recent information on the developing scandal and its implications for Henyard's future in politics. The political chaos in both townships is unlikely to be resolved until a new leader assumes control, and the question of whether she can save her career will remain a hotly debated topic. Thanks for watching and keep tuned. Until we meet again, thanks for watching Visual Vortex.